Adrian Wojnarowski announced this morning on X that he is retiring from ESPN as an NBA insider and will now be the general manager of his alma mater's men's basketball program at St. Bonaventure. So that's big sports media news. Your Woj Bombs are done, Bennett. You won't see another one unless it's connected to St. Bonaventure basketball, it appears.
It's kind of depressing.
You're sad.
It does make me a little sad. I cherish those Woj Bombs, man.
They were fun, weren't they?
It was always a good time.
Nothing like a good Woj Bomb.
I think my favorite, this was multiple bombs, but I think the wrong Brooks situation. Remember that one when it was the Dylan Brooks, but we were offering Marshawn Brooks. Yeah. But yeah, that was a good one.
That was a little bit of a mess.
I enjoyed that one. Those were my favorites.
That was a messy situation. So Woj, he posted the following on Twitter this morning. I'll read you some of it. He said, "I grew up the son of a factory worker 2 miles from ESPN's campus and only ever dreamed of making a living as a sports writer. 37 years ago, the Hartford Courant gave me my first byline, and I never stopped chasing the thrill of it all. This craft transformed my life, but I've decided to retire from ESPN and the news industry. I understand the commitment required in my role, and it's an investment that I'm no longer driven to make. Time isn't in endless supply, and I want to spend mine in ways that are more personally meaningful." That's the part that doesn't surprise me.
Right.
I could see this take a toll on him because I saw somebody in the chat, as Mike and I were talking about it earlier, say that, Woj was, like one of the great columnists in sports media for a long time. And then when he transitioned to NBA Insider for ESPN, he stopped writing columns and was strictly a newsbreaker. Type the words, get the stories, go on TV, talk about it. No more storytelling, no more columns, none of that. And that was all by design. It is much easier to break news when you're not out there offering opinions about the people you need to break news. In other words, you write a column ripping the Grizzlies for signing somebody or drafting somebody or doing something that isn't positive. Well, if you're also a newsbreaker, you got to be on the phone with the Grizzlies tomorrow.
Yeah, that's true.
All right? So and I don't want to speak for Woj, but I'm comfortable saying this, that was very deliberate. I can't keep writing columns and sharing opinions about people if my primary job is to get news from these people before other people. I'm more in the opinion sharing business, whether it's with my mouth or a keyboard. But he gave that up, the opinions, to be able to get the news. Like, imagine I write that column I wrote about Penny Hardaway a couple weeks ago, and then I also got to call Penny Hardaway the next day to try to get news from him. It's a hard thing to do. So that's why he stopped writing the columns, because when you're going to be that guy, you don't need to be writing the columns and expressing opinions about people, because those columns and those opinions could end up making your job as a newsbreaker more difficult than it otherwise would be. And so if the question is, well, then why? But he was such a great sports writer. Why did he give that up? Millions of dollars. Millions and millions of dollars. Because that's where ESPN decided it was worth spending money. We want to be the authority on all things NFL, so we're going to pay Adam Schefter. We want to be the authority on all things Major League Baseball, so we're going to pay Jeff Passan. And we want to be the authority on all things NBA, so we're going to pay Woj. And you got to understand, this is a guy I've known since he was just a columnist in New Jersey. We first met and bonded over, do you know what our common denominator was? We both covered John Calipari. And we both had outrageous John Calipari. Yeah. He covered him with the Nets. I covered him with Memphis. And we would I think I literally met Woj at a grassroots event 15 years ago or a long time ago. And hey, let's get lunch and tell John Calipari stories to each other and laugh and laugh and laugh. And from that, we became friends. Our wives became friends. And I've seen him go from that to what he became, and it's exhausting. Like sometimes when I'm in New York, he lives just across the river in New Jersey. So it's a quick, 20, 25-minute car from Midtown Manhattan to his home. And so sometimes when I fly to New York on Mondays, we'd meet up, or I'd even go to his house and we'd watch like big Monday basketball games together and just sit there and drink beers and whatever. And I'm not exaggerating when I tell you the entire time, it's just a random Monday night in January. Mm-hmm. The entire time he is either on the phone or texting. It's just not, and it's not even like him initiating all these conversations. It'll just be like we're talking, and he's like, "So tell me again how Kelly's store's doing," and then it'd be like, "Hold on, here's the GM of the Blazers," and it's just, "Hey, what's up?" And it's just exhausting. And when you have the type of demanding job that got even more demanding, by the way, when Shams became a real threat to his ability to get every single NBA story. So now you got to work harder than you even used to because you got this young, hungrier, unmarried, no children. You know how much easier it is to dedicate every minute of the day to work when you don't have kids and don't have a wife?
Right.
All right? Shams isn't juggling the same life stuff that Woj is juggling. So it's just exhausting. And I don't want to get too deep into it, but just know that the same house he lived in 15 years ago is the house he lives in now. So his money changed dramatically, but he intentionally didn't change his lifestyle very much. I think he told me the one thing he told his wife he was going to actually splurge on was a new TV.
Nice.
Like a new 80-inch TV,
which probably costs man of the people.
Which probably costs, $500, right? That was his big splurge when he went from making, let's just say, a few $100,000 a year to many $1 million per year. His big splurge was a new TV. They didn't change neighborhoods. They didn't change anything too dramatically. So what has happened is he's accumulated, I'm assuming, enough money to where he thinks he can do something that doesn't have to work, doesn't have to live like this anymore. And he's just very clearly deciding, I would want to improve my quality of life. What is the point of having all this money if I'm just working every minute of every day? And like Mike said earlier, I admire that.
I do too.
The sentence that stands out most in his announcement was that time isn't an endless supply. And I want to spend mine in ways that are more personally meaningful. Have you ever seen this clip that pops up on Instagram every once in a while? And it's 21 Savage talking about this on some level. It's hilarious. People make fun of it because he's just being goofy. Or no, he thinks he's being serious, but it sounds goofy. But he's saying things like, how many good years do you really have? He's like, so, when you're young, you don't really, those aren't the best years because you're not an adult yet. You can't do all the adult things. And then when you become an adult, you're probably broke for a while, if not forever. But like, let's say you make it, you probably don't even get that money till, you're at a certain age. And then by the time you get to a certain age, like you can't move the way you used to move. You can't do the things you used to do. And so those aren't the great years. Like, how many great years do you really have? He's doing like math on it. He's like, is it 10? Is it 20? And it always gets the crying, laughing emoji. But there's like some real truth in there somewhere. He just didn't, I don't know, say it perfectly. But there is some real truth. And I think as you get older, these things do pop into your head. They pop into my head sometimes.
They pop into my head.
The Gary Parrish Show, live weekdays at 10 a.m.